Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be looking into a really tough case,
Yeah,
the murder of 8-year-old Sandra Renee Cantu.
right.
This happened back in 2009 in Tracy, California.
Tragic.
It really shook the town.
Absolutely.
And to unpack it all, we're going to be looking at an article from City Towner.
Okay.
It was published just last month, actually.
Mm.
And what makes this case so disturbing is that the person who took Sandra's life wasn't a stranger.
Right.
It was someone the community knew and trusted.
Yes. Very unsettling.
So we're going to examine the details of this case,
Yeah.
how it impacted Tracy.
Uh-huh.
And we'll talk about what it means for child safety even today.
It really forces us to confront the idea that danger can exist even in places we consider safe.
Yeah, like our own neighborhoods.
Exactly.
So before we get into the heavy stuff,
Okay.
can you kind of paint a picture for us
Sure.
of what Sandra's life was like before all this happened?
Well, she was your typical 8-year-old. Loved playing outside.
Yeah.
You know, in her mobile home park, hanging out with her friends, just being a kid.
Yeah.
And it really just, makes this whole thing even more tragic.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
So walk me through what happened the day she disappeared.
It was March 27th, 2009.
Okay.
Sandra left her home
Mm-hmm.
to go visit a friend in the park
Yeah, okay.
and was never seen alive again.
Wow.
And the last image of her
Uh-huh.
was actually caught on a surveillance camera
Okay.
showing her skipping down the street.
Oh, God.
And, knowing what happened makes that image
Yeah,
just so haunting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
What was the immediate reaction
Well,
from the community?
Everyone came together.
Okay.
There was this massive outpouring of support and concern.
Mm-hmm.
You had local authorities,
Yeah.
the FBI, tons of volunteers. Like, everyone joined the search for Sandra.
Wow.
There were flyers everywhere.
Yeah.
The story was all over the news. It really gripped the town and beyond.
You mentioned volunteers.
Yes.
Was there any specific information in the article
Oh, yeah.
about their efforts?
Definitely.
Because I'm kind of curious, how a small town would handle something this big.
Right. Well, the article mentions over 1,500 volunteers showed up
Wow.
in those first few days,
Oops.
helping law enforcement go door to door and search nearby fields.
Gosh.
It really speaks to the strength of this community and how everyone rallied together.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But sadly, we know this story doesn't have a happy ending.
No.
So when and how was Sandra found?
10 days later,
Okay.
a farm worker
Uh-huh.
made a horrific discovery.
Okay.
A suitcase floating in an irrigation pond.
Oh my gosh.
And when they opened it,
Yeah.
they found Sandra's body.
I can only imagine the
Yeah.
devastation when that news broke.
Oh, it was awful.
So what did the autopsy reveal?
Well, it was confirmed that Sandra had been sexually assaulted and murdered.
Oh gosh.
But then there was another detail that added a whole other level of horror to this.
Okay.
The toxicology report
Mm-hmm.
showed traces of a really powerful sedative
Okay.
called chloral hydrate
Wow. Okay.
in her system.
That's chilling.
It is.
We have this innocent child. The community is desperately searching. And then this horrifying discovery.
Yeah.
What happened next in the investigation?
Well, at this point, it became a homicide investigation.
Okay.
And the police started looking into everyone
Yeah.
who had contact with Sandra in the days leading up to her disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when things took a really shocking turn.
Okay, so here's where it gets really unsettling.
Yeah.
Tell me about Melissa Huckabee
Okay.
and her connection to Sandra.
Well, Melissa Huckabee was a 28-year-old Sunday school teacher
Yeah.
from the same mobile home park.
Mm-hmm.
And she was arrested for Sandra's murder.
Wait, a Sunday school teacher?
Yeah.
Someone who works with kids? That's
Yeah.
almost impossible to grasp. What was her relationship with Sandra?
It gets even more complicated.
Okay.
Huckabee wasn't just a Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
She was also the granddaughter of the pastor at the local Baptist church.
Wow.
And her daughter was actually one of Sandra's playmates.
Oh my God.
So this was someone Sandra knew,
Yeah.
some of the community trusted implicitly.
That detail is incredibly disturbing.
It is.
It really shatters any sense of security.
Right.
Did the article say anything about Huckabee's background?
A little bit, yeah.
Was there anything that hinted at this darkness?
Well, they mentioned that she had a history of minor run-ins with the law,
Okay.
like petty theft and a DUI.
Okay.
She'd also been struggling with some personal issues,
Mm.
but nothing that would lead anyone to suspect she was capable of something like this.
So we have this seemingly upstanding member of the community who's actually hiding a much darker side.
Yeah.
Was there a specific piece of evidence that led investigators to her?
Yes, Huckabee had reported her own suitcase missing
Okay.
shortly after Sandra's disappearance. And it was the same type of suitcase that Sandra's body was found in.
That's terrifying.
It is.
That detail really points to premeditation.
Yeah.
What happened after the police zeroed in on Huckabee?
Well, Huckabee's behavior after the murder was erratic and inconsistent.
Okay.
She initially denied any involvement, but ultimately she confessed to the crime.
Was there any indication in the article
No, not really.
of what might have motivated her to do this?
That's the biggest mystery of this whole case.
Yeah.
Even in her confession, she never fully explained her actions.
Wow.
Some psychologists have suggested she may have been struggling with a mental breakdown or, that there were deeper psychological issues at play.
So even after she confessed,
Yeah.
there were still so many unanswered questions.
So many.
What happened next? Did she go to trial?
She did,
Okay.
but it didn't end up going to a full jury decision.
Okay.
Huckabee struck a plea deal to avoid the death penalty.
That must have been a difficult decision for the prosecution and Sandra's family to make.
I can't imagine.
What were the terms of the plea deal?
In June of 2010,
Okay.
she pleaded guilty to kidnapping and first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
So there was a sense of justice served.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't bring Sandra back or provide a clear understanding of why this happened.
No, it doesn't.
It's a truly haunting case.
Absolutely.
And the ripple effects of this tragedy went far beyond the courtroom,
Yeah,
deeply impacting the community of Tracy.
for sure.
So let's dig into that a little bit more.
Okay.
What was the immediate impact on the town?
It was profound.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the sense of betrayal,
Right.
the fear, the sorrow
Uh-huh.
that permeated the community. This wasn't some outsider who committed this crime. This
Right.
was someone they knew, someone they trusted.
Yeah.
It shattered their sense of security.
It's hard to even fathom
Yeah.
how the community began to heal from something like this.
It's a long and difficult process.
Yeah.
But the article highlighted how they came together
Okay.
in some remarkable ways.
Mm-hmm.
They held memorials, candlelight vigils,
Yeah.
and organized fundraisers to support Sandra's family.
Oh, wow.
It was a real testament to the strength of the human spirit,
Right.
the ability to find hope and support, even in the face of unimaginable tragedy.
It's amazing
Yeah.
to see that kind of unity.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the media also played a big role
They did.
in covering this case.
Huge role.
Did the article touch on their impact at all?
It did, yeah.
Okay.
The coverage was intense, both locally and nationally.
Yeah.
It was crucial in the initial search for Sandra,
Right.
and it helped to keep the case in the public eye.
Uh-huh.
But it also raised questions about,
Yeah.
the ethics of covering such a sensitive case,
Right.
especially when it came to respecting the privacy of Sandra's family.
That's a delicate balance for sure.
Yeah, it is.
On one hand, you want to raise awareness
Mhm.
and help with the investigation,
Right.
but you also want to avoid exploiting the tragedy or
Yeah.
causing further pain for the family.
Exactly. It's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
And it's important for the media to be mindful of their impact
Uh-huh.
and to prioritize responsible reporting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a moment to kind of reflect on everything we've discussed so far.
Okay.
We learned about Sandra's life, her tragic disappearance, the shocking discovery, and then the arrest of someone she knew and trusted.
Right.
We've also seen how this case deeply affected an entire community
Yeah.
and brought up these important questions about the role of the media.
Uh-huh.
But there's another layer to this story.
Okay.
Sandra's case had a lasting impact on child safety practices, both locally and nationally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
We're going to dive into the specifics
Yeah.
of how Sandra's case led to real change
Okay.
and explore some of the broader implications for child safety. So let's get into it.
All right. So one of the most significant changes
Okay.
that happened after Sandra's murder
Mm-hmm.
was the widespread adoption of the Amber Alert system
Okay.
in California.
Right, the Amber Alert system.
Yeah.
I know it's used for missing kids,
Uh-huh.
but I don't really know the details.
Okay.
Can you break it down for us?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So it's actually named after Amber Hagerman.
Oh, good.
She was a 9-year-old girl
Mm-hmm.
who was tragically abducted and murdered in Texas back in 1996.
Oh, wow.
And her case, like Sandra's,
Yeah.
really made people demand a faster and more effective response to child abductions.
So how does it actually work?
Okay.
Like, what triggers an Amber Alert?
All right. So when a child is reported missing,
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement has to confirm a few things before they can issue an alert.
Okay.
First, They need evidence that the child was actually abducted,
Okay.
not just a runaway.
Gotcha.
Second, there has to be a serious risk to the child's safety. And finally, they need enough descriptive information about the child,
Yeah.
the abductor, or the vehicle to make the alert useful.
That makes sense. You don't want to be sending out alerts
Right.
for every missing child.
Exactly.
But you need to act fast when there's a real danger.
Absolutely.
So what happens once the alert is issued?
It basically sets off a chain reaction
Okay.
to spread the word as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So the child's description and any available information about the suspect
Yeah.
or their vehicle
Okay.
is broadcast on radio and television,
Wow.
posted on highway signs,
Okay.
blasted out through mobile phone alerts,
Gotcha.
and shared all over social media.
So it sounds like a massive coordinated effort
It
to
is.
get everyone looking.
Exactly.
Wow.
And the idea is to leverage the eyes and ears of the public
Yeah.
to find the child as fast as possible.
Makes sense.
You never know who might spot something crucial.
Right.
And the incredible thing is, the Amber Alert system has been directly responsible for the safe return of hundreds of children
Wow.
since it was created.
That's amazing.
It is.
It's a testament to the power of quick action
Mm.
and community involvement.
Yeah.
And it's so tragic that it took cases like Amber's and Sandra's to push for these changes.
Right.
But their legacy lives on in every child saved by this system.
Absolutely.
So while the Amber Alert system is a powerful tool,
Yes.
it's not the only change
Right.
that came out of these tragedies.
Yeah.
There's also been a huge push for more education and awareness in communities
That value.
about child safety.
For sure.
And that makes sense. You
Yeah.
can have the technology in place,
Mhm.
but it's equally important to equip people with the knowledge and skills
Right.
to prevent these situations in the first place.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the ways that communities have stepped up their efforts?
Well, schools become much more proactive
Okay.
about teaching kids how to react in dangerous situations.
Okay.
They conduct regular drills
Uh-huh.
to practice what to do if a stranger approaches them or if they feel unsafe in any way.
Yeah, I remember those drills from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Definitely made me more aware, even if it was a bit scary at the time.
Right. And those drills are now combined with programs
Okay.
designed to help parents talk to their children about personal safety.
Okay, so it's like a more comprehensive approach
Yeah.
to child safety, going beyond just the stranger danger warning.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's especially important considering that in Sandra's case,
Yeah.
the perpetrator was not a stranger,
Right.
but someone she knew and trusted within the community.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
It challenges the traditional way of thinking about child safety
Right.
and forces us to consider the potential dangers that can exist even within our close circles.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial for kids to be taught to trust their instincts,
Mm-hmm.
to speak up if something feels wrong,
Yeah.
and to know they can always come to a trusted adult for help, even if the person making them uncomfortable is someone they know.
It's about empowering children to be their own advocates and giving them the tools to recognize and report any situation that makes them feel unsafe.
Absolutely.
So what about the role of parents in the community in all this?
Yeah.
What can they do to help create safer environments?
Well, parents need to have open and honest conversations with their children about safety,
Okay.
starting at a young age.
Mm.
And it's not about scaring them,
Right.
but about giving them the knowledge and skills they need to make smart choices
Yeah.
and to understand that their safety is a top priority.
That open line of communication is key.
Absolutely.
Kids need to feel comfortable coming to their parents or other trusted adults
Yes.
if something is wrong, no matter what.
For sure.
So what about the community as a whole?
Oh,
What
wow.
role do they play?
Well, communities can implement a variety of strategies to improve child safety,
Okay.
neighborhood watch programs. For example, encourage residents to be more vigilant and to report any suspicious activity.
Okay.
Community centers can provide resources and support for families.
Yeah.
And local law enforcement can conduct outreach programs
Okay.
to educate the public about child safety best practices.
So it sounds like a multi-pronged approach
Yeah.
where everyone in the community has a part to play in keeping kids safe.
Exactly. It's about fostering a culture of awareness,
Right.
vigilance, and support
Mm-hmm.
where children feel empowered to speak up.
Yeah.
Adults are actively engaged in their safety,
Uh-huh.
and communities work together to create environments where children can thrive without fear.
That's a powerful message.
Yeah.
And a reminder that even though tragedies like Sandra's case expose the vulnerabilities in our systems, they can also inspire positive change and create a ripple effect that leads to safer communities for everyone.
Absolutely. And as we continue to learn from these cases and adapt our approaches to child safety, we honor the memory of those who have been lost.
Right.
And reaffirm our commitment to protecting the most vulnerable members of our society.
We've talked a lot about Sandra's case.
We have.
The community's response.
Yeah.
And the changes that have been implemented to improve child safety. But what about Melissa Huckabee?
Okay.
What happened to her after her sentencing?
As we mentioned earlier, she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And she's currently incarcerated at the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla.
And has she ever spoken publicly about the crime?
Not really.
Or provided any insight into her motivations?
That's where the story takes another interesting turn.
Okay.
While she confessed to the crime.
Yeah.
She's never offered a full explanation for her actions.
Oh.
There have been various theories put forward by psychologists and criminologists.
Okay.
But her true motives remain a mystery.
So even after the trial and sentencing, there's still a sense of unanswered questions, of wanting to understand what could lead someone to commit such a horrific act.
It's a case that continues to fascinate and baffle people.
Right.
Even years later.
Yeah.
It speaks to the complexity of human behavior. And the fact that we may never fully grasp the darkness that can exist within seemingly ordinary individuals.
It is unsettling to think about.
Yeah.
But also incredibly important to acknowledge.
Absolutely.
Because if we can better understand the factors that contribute to tragedies like this, perhaps we can do more to prevent them from happening in the future.
I agree.
So it's a multifaceted problem, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that there are glimmers of hope.
Oh, for sure.
We see it in the resilience of the Tracy community, the strides made in child safety practices, and the ongoing efforts to understand and prevent these kinds of tragedies.
You're right. It's a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, there's always hope for healing, for learning, and for creating a world where our children can be safe and thrive.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the heart-wrenching details of Sandra's murder to the community's response and the changes that followed. We also explored the unsettling mystery surrounding Melissa Huckabee's motives.
Right.
And the long-lasting impact this case has had on child safety practices.
For sure.
But before we wrap up, I want to shift our focus to the ethical considerations around media coverage of cases like this. It's a delicate and important topic.
Absolutely.
Especially when we think about the potential impact on the victims' families and the community as a whole.
It's a tightrope walk, isn't it?
It is?
Yeah. You have the public's right to know the need for information, but also the responsibility to be sensitive to those directly affected by the tragedy.
Exactly. And I imagine there's a lot of pressure on the media.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in high-profile cases like this. Absolutely. To get the story first, to break new developments. But where do you draw the line between keeping the public informed and exploiting the tragedy for ratings?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer.
Right.
Unfortunately, we've seen instances where media outlets prioritize sensationalism over sensitivity. You know, focusing on the most graphic details or intruding on the grieving family's privacy for a better story.
It's upsetting to think that someone's pain could be used for profit.
Yeah, it is.
So what are some of the ethical considerations the media should be mindful of when covering cases like Sandra Cantu's?
Well, one crucial consideration is the potential for re-traumatizing the victims' families and the community. Constantly replaying the details of the crime, showing graphic images, or hounding the family for interviews can really exacerbate their pain and hinder the healing process.
It's about recognizing that while this is a news story, for those involved, it's their life. It's their reality.
Exactly.
So what about the impact on the investigation? Can media coverage hinder or help law enforcement's efforts?
We could definitely go both ways. On one hand, extensive media coverage can help generate leads. Witnesses might come forward with information they wouldn't have thought to share otherwise. And the constant attention can put pressure on law enforcement to solve the case quickly.
It can keep the case from fading into the background.
Exactly.
Okay.
But on the other hand, releasing too much information can compromise the investigation.
Okay.
It might tip off the suspect, taint potential jurors, or even inspire copycat crimes.
Oh, wow.
So finding that balance is crucial.
It's a lot of responsibility for the media to shoulder.
It is. And I think it's important for the public to be critical consumers of media.
Okay.
To recognize sensationalism when they see it.
Yeah.
And to demand responsible and ethical reporting from the outlets they choose to follow.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility as viewers and readers to hold the media accountable.
Absolutely.
So for our listeners who are feeling the weight of this story and want to do something to help, are there resources available for learning more about child safety?
Oh, yeah.
Or getting involved in prevention efforts?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC, offer a wealth of information for parents, educators, and community members. Their website has tips for talking to kids about safety, recognizing warning signs, and creating safer environments.
So it's not just about reacting to tragedies like this, but also being proactive and taking steps to prevent them from happening in the first place.
Exactly. And there are also local organizations that people can get involved with. Many communities have child safety councils or neighborhood watch programs focused on prevention and awareness. Volunteering at a local school or youth organization is another great way to make a difference.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in keeping our children safe.
Absolutely.
This has been a tough deep dive.
It has.
Exploring the dark side of human nature and the lasting impact of a horrific crime.
Yeah.
We covered Sandra's story, the community's response, and the changes made to improve child safety.
Right.
We also grappled with the complexities of the case.
Yeah.
The unanswered questions and the role of the media in shaping our understanding of these tragedies.
For sure.
But it's important to remember that even in the darkest of stories, there are glimmers of hope.
Absolutely.
We see it in the community's strength, the evolution of safety practices, and the dedication of those working to protect children.
I agree.
So as we conclude our deep dive, let's honor Sandra Cantu's memory by continuing the conversation about child safety, being vigilant in our communities, and working together to create a world where tragedies like this are not just reacted to, but actively prevented.
Well said. And if there's one takeaway for our listeners today, it's this. Never underestimate the power of awareness, communication, and a collective commitment to protecting the most vulnerable among us.
Thank you for joining us on this difficult, but crucial journey. And remember, each of us can make a difference in creating a safer world for children.
Absolutely.